What's up, brand builders? Stephen Harahan here at BrandMasterAcademy.com, and in this video you're going to learn what brand association is and how it creates memories and perceptions that are influential in the buying decision. Now, if you're new to the channel and you want to build brands that go beyond the visuals and the logo using strategy, psychology, and creative thinking, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. If you want to fast track your results, make sure you grab the Pro Brand Strategy Blueprint. It's a free download and the link is in the description. Now, brands are absolutely fascinating entities in my slightly nerdy and obsessive opinion. On one hand, you have distinctive brand assets that are designed to be memorable. And on the other hand, you have a collection of memories that form perceptions. So what is a brand? Is a brand a collection of assets, or is it a collection of memories? Well, they're actually both. They're both memories and they're both assets. And associations are the bridge between the two that turn distinctive assets into memories and perceptions. And that's what this video is all about. So what are brand associations? Well, they're just neural connections made by the consumer that aligns a brand with an idea or a place or an emotion. And these neural connections actually provide the audience with some meaning about the brand as to who the brand is, what it's all about, what it means, and why that should matter to the audience. So why are brand associations so important? Well, it's these associations that form the memory of a brand. A brand doesn't live in a physical world. It doesn't live in Times Square. It doesn't live in a digital world either. It doesn't live on a website or live on a social page. It lives in the mind of the audience as a perception. And it's the associations that a brand has with its consumer, the associations that the consumer aligns with the brand through the brand experience, that forms the meaning, that forms the reputation of that brand and what that should mean to the audience, why they should remember it and why they should consider it in the buying decision. So how are brand associations formed? Well, as I mentioned before, they're formed through experiences. So you can probably relate to this. Let me give you a bit of an example. Let's say there's a new restaurant that's just opened up in town and you decide to go with your significant other and you book a table for 8 o'clock and you show up a little bit early, let's say at 7:45. Now the host shows you inside, and because you're early, they show you to the bar and they give you a glass of champagne on the house to get you going for the evening. Then they lead you down to the table and they provide you with the menu. The menu looks great. The staff are really friendly, really professional. They help you with your order, and then the food arrives and it is absolutely delicious. The wine is great. The chef then comes out and asks you how your meal is. Everything about the place is great. It's cozy. The interior decor is really nice. The other patrons there seem to be really nice. They're smart, they're well dressed, and you just have an absolutely great experience. Now at the end of the evening, you're going to leave with a belly full of food, probably a belly full of wine, but you're also going to leave with a handful of associations that are really important in where you store that restaurant in your mind, in the position that you store that restaurant in your mind based on the experience that you had. So what is a brand association? What is an example of a brand association? Well, I could talk about Nike and their association with winning, but let's stick with this practical example of the restaurant here again. So after such a great night out, there are many positive associations that you will have with that brand, with that restaurant. You could be thinking of how cozy and warm the restaurant was, how stylish the interior decor and the rest of the patrons were, how professional the staff were, how they looked after their customer, how they put their customer first, how the chef took the time to come out and they made sure that the customer felt like they were being taken care of. Or you could have an association with just a great night out. If you want to have a great night out, you now associate this brand and this business with a great night out. So these are all examples of positive associations that you had with this brand. Now, this will influence a couple of things. It'll influence whether or not you go back, and it will influence how you speak to other people about this business. Now, when you do go back, you may not have the exact same experience. You may have only 3 or 4 of the positive experiences that you previously had, and maybe 3 or 4 of those previous positive experiences will drop off. But it is the positive experiences that you experience again and again and again that become the bedrock of the reputation of that brand. And that is what the brand wants to become known for, and the position that it wants to own in the mind of the audience. So what are the different types of associations that a consumer can have with a brand? Well, there are many different types. You can have an association with a brand based on its location. If you know that that brand is based in New York, then New York can become an association with that brand. You can have an association based on attributes, depending on how the brand behaves, the personality characteristics it displays. You might align that brand with a certain type of attribute, or you might align it with a benefit or an outcome that you have achieved from this brand, or some kind of emotion that you felt through the experience. If you think about Nike owns the idea of just do it, and that just do it idea, it's a tagline that is a call to action that you can do anything that you put your mind to. Or Coke owns the emotion of happiness. Every single touch point that they are at, they're drilling home that idea of happiness. They're present at every summer event or every Christmas event, and they have cornered that idea of happiness, and that is part of their brand associations. But the more effort you put into owning an association, the more times it shows up again and again and again through your brand experience, the more likely your customer is going to associate your brand with that experience, and the more likely you are going to start to own that position in the mind of your audience. Now, not all associations are positive. You have positive associations and negative associations. It takes a long time and a lot of effort to build a positive association, to align a brand with a positive association that builds brand equity, and all of that can be torn down in just a second with a negative association. Now, Volkswagen is a perfect example of this. Back in 2015, they had that emissions scandal. Now, up until that point, they had an absolutely stellar reputation, but it turned out that when it came to the emissions in their car, they had intentionally programmed their emissions to only produce these reduced emissions during the testing phase, meaning that it went out into the real world, it produced 40 times the emissions. And that scandal absolutely decimated the reputation of Volkswagen, and they ended up paying out billions of dollars in remuneration and in expenses and legal fees, and the damage that it did to its reputation long term is going to be going on for years and years. There are consumers out there who just won't buy Volkswagen anymore because of that damaged trust and that loss of trust through that scandal. So it just goes to show that positive associations take a long time to build up, and it does build that brand equity up over time, but a negative association can tear that down in a second. So as you map out your brand strategy, identify the associations that you want aligned with your brand, and then design a brand experience to give your audience as many of those associations as possible. The more you have those associations throughout your brand experience, and the more consistently you do this, the more they become part of the fabric of the reputation of your brand and the position that you own in the mind of your audience. So identify the associations you want aligned with your brand and embed them into your brand experience. Now, as your reputation grows, so does your brand equity and your ability to charge premium fees. If you want to know what brand equity is and how to build it, then this video will help you out. Until next time, brand like a master, and I'll see you in the next video.